This 2023 NFL Regular Season Awards Betting Picks edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by the SGP Patreon. Score exclusive perks, content, and contests, including the NFL Win Totals contest with a $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Roster brought to you by Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code SGPN on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Buy the Underdog Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times in one game. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. And we're also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any NFL game. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code SGP. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Monday, September the 4th, currently 4:30 on the East Coast, here to give our final 2023 regular season award picks before the official season kicks off on Thursday. We knocked out all of our season-long player props. Again, still plenty of time for you to go back and listen to those pods and come hopefully cash in with us as we have been over the last two seasons. But hey, this is another fun episode. I love every single year because it's so fun to dig into these award markets. Like I mentioned, we'll go through about 5 to 6 of them, maybe more in depth on some of the awards than others. But hey, I got my guys here with me. First, it's my guy Chris B. Cap. And Chris, how you feeling this Monday, man? It's almost that time, buddy. I'm itching over here.
You and me both, man. Just super excited. Like you said, Thursday will be right around the corner. We're starting to see some stuff come out already that we can start looking at. And last show, it's fun to do all the shows kind of leading up to it. But last show probably or at least player of the year and these type of accolades. We broke down all the divisions, like you said. So if you haven't got a chance to listen to those, you still got a little bit of time to check those out as well. But I'm super excited to get into it. Super excited for the upcoming season. I can't wait to talk these superlatives and these awards out with you and Rod today, man.
Yes, sir. And also joining us here, you guys know him as the Motorsports King. It's Rod Villagomez. If you're not following the F1 pod and the NASCAR pod, you're missing out on all those little green check marks I see every single week. Rod, how's it hanging, my man?
Hey, it was a great weekend as far as racing was concerned. I mean, we missed a few, although don't let all those green check marks fool you. There's a lot of them, but we're not all powerful. But I will say I'm happy. Last fantasy football draft of the season tonight. I'm excited for that. That just means that football season's here. It is happening. And listen, as much fun as it is to break down these futures markets, I'm ready to start breaking down some game props. Like I want to be able to start talking about these games. So I can't wait.
Yeah. So the Propcast regular season show we'll decide when we officially discuss or record that podcast for the Thursday night football game. Hopefully maybe either tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest for our Thursday night football player props. But like I mentioned, today we will go through the awards markets here. MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year awards, offensive defensive player of the years, comeback player. Maybe not a huge market there, but we're gonna go through all of it, gentlemen. So why don't we just kick it off here? I think I'll save MVP for last, and that might be more of a intriguing conversation. Why don't we start with the young kids? We'll start with the rookies here. Let's start with defensive rookie of the year for this upcoming season, gentlemen. And currently, what I am seeing, the odds-on favorite is going to be my number 3 overall pick, Will Anderson Jr. of the Houston Texans, as the 4-1 favorite to win this award. He's followed by Jalen Carter of the Philadelphia Eagles, 7-1. Christian Gonzalez of the Green Bay Packers, plus 950. Tyree Wilson, 10-1. Devin Witherspoon, 10-1. Jack Campbell, 14-1. And then goes down the list that way. Chris, why don't you kick us off here with Defensive Player of the Year? What are some of the guys that you did like for this award for this upcoming season?
So you said one, and the reason why I jumped on him was because I actually got the odds at double what you just said. And we're going to Mr. Weatherspoon, right? Devin Witherspoon. I actually see him on FanDuel. Just checked this about maybe 2 hours ago. He was 20-1. So plus 2,000 is what you could get Weatherspoon at. He's the cornerback that comes out of Illinois. He's now in Seattle. They drafted him 5th overall. Big physical corner. I think this guy's 5'11", maybe 180, 185. I love his ball instincts, right? And being he's going to get thrust right into this starting rotation. He'll be out there on the right side of the field. And I love his ball instincts. I love that he's going to be targeted so much. He has just a lot of confidence, and I think we all know playing in this league, you have to be able to have a high level of confidence, especially playing cornerback, when you can get roasted and then got to get right back out there on the field and got to play again. So he takes a lot of ball side angles to kind of disrupt passes. Impressive route recognition skills led to 14 pass breakups last season. And Pro Football Focus had him allowing just 34.9% completion percentage in 2022, which is, of course, one of the highest percentages that you'll be able to find out there as well. It is interesting to me. I thought it was a tad bit interesting that Seattle took him because they play so much coverage and not a lot of man. This guy he has physically, like, a lot of people didn't watch him. Physically, he's really gifted. Like he projects almost like Sauce. And his ability just to be able to kind of switch hands, switch feet, his athleticism. So it's interesting to me that, because he played so much man last year and they're going to try to put him in more of a zone scheme, or maybe they plan on switching it up and playing a little bit more man to man. But I just think, overall, he's going to have his, he's going to have his chances. You look at the Seahawks secondary, they rank 8th heading into the season with a front 7 that's actually ranked 21st. So I think that's going to leave a lot of opportunity for him as well. And this secondary took a couple leaps. You got Willen on the opposite side, Adams and Diggs at the safety position. So I like especially at this price. You give me this price and you give me a guy that's as big and as physical as he is, that can definitely go hawk the ball down. We know for cornerbacks to win this award, they gotta you gotta get a couple interceptions. You gotta be able to tackle. He's a big physical guy that can come up and tackle running backs as well. So give me Weatherspoon. I know this one's a little far fetched, but I like the odds. The plus 2,000. I like Weatherspoon.
Yeah, again, I mean, we've preached this when we did our season-long player props. Again, shop around for the best number because, again, there are conflicting odds out there. And, again, you got to find the best number. But, I think traditionally going back prior to, let's say, the 2014 season, like cornerbacks weren't really getting or winning this award, right? I think you have to go back to 2015. Sorry, prior to 2014, I would say the person or the player that won, you have to go all the way back, I believe, to 1988. Charles Woodson, who won the Rookie of the Year defensive wise. But since 2015, Marcus Peters, cornerback winner. Marshawn Lattimore, 2017. And then obviously last year, Sauce Gardner. So we're starting to see defensive backs, especially at the cornerback positions, starting to get these awards. I like Devin Witherspoon here as well, man. He was one of the guys I had on my list. Again, like you mentioned, 20-1 is a great number. I think 10-1, there's still some value there as well. And it just makes a lot of sense, right? I think that number one, Seattle defensively, especially in the secondary prior to how that struggled. Jamal Adams is another guy that is going to be missing. So that's more a weight on Witherspoon's in his I guess more pressure for him to perform out there, especially with Jamal Adams not being there. But like you mentioned, the physicality that this guy has, I think that's something relatable, and I think that's something that you need. We're playing at the cornerback position. So again, 20-1 where Chris got it, still at 10-1. Again, shop around. Chris, you see, is it still 20-1 on FanDuel, or do you have seen an updated number right there? Still 10-1.
I saw 20-1 when I looked earlier. Let me double check.
It's still there. Okay, yeah, perfect. Then yeah, again, 10-1 right now on DraftKings. You could get double the price, 20-1 over on FanDuel. Rod, take us over to your pick, man. If you have any thoughts on Witherspoon you want to add as well.
Well, I mean, look, Seattle misses that Legion of Boom, right? I think they want a second coming of that. Obviously, they can lean on Witherspoon to sort of hopefully bring that culture back to the secondary, and they need it. I mean, they've got the Niners who are going to throw a ton against them at least twice a season, so he's going to get his opportunity. Somebody else who I think benefits not just from the where he's at, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think his name is going to bring a lot of eyeballs to him as well, and that's Joey Porter Jr. He's at 25-1 over there as Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I mean, to your point, Chris, about cornerbacks, they're starting to get their looks now for this award. And again, his name alone, where he's at, that whole narrative right there will bring eyeballs. And now all he has to do is match his play to those eyeballs, right? I mean, that's really what we're hoping for here, especially at 25-1. His last season at Penn State, 21 solo tackles, 6 combined, or 6 assists rather, 27 combined. He didn't have any interceptions in his senior season, or his last season rather. So, I mean, he's going to have to step it up in that department there total. But in my opinion, the Steelers defense is going to get tested this year, right? They are going to be they're going to get tested by all sorts of AFC quarterbacks and AFC receivers. And if he can instantly step in and do good things for that team, I think he's pretty much in the contention for this award. Like I said, with the eyeballs on him, with the name, with everything that is going to be talked about, as long as he can perform right away, as long as he can step in and be a force for them instantaneously, that secondary, they're going to need help for sure. It's not like they're going to be able to skate through this season. So I think Porter's a good addition to that team. And I think, eyeballs are going to be on him for this Defensive Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah. I mean, look, Pittsburgh, we know traditionally has been, I guess, a powerhouse of defense because again, you have the multiple time TJ Watt winner of the Defensive Player of the Year award. And they pride themselves on the defensive side of the football. I know they have Mika Fitzpatrick, manning kind of center field, as they say, but they needed a solid cornerback, and they go out and get a former Pittsburgh Steelers son in Joey Porter Jr. So, yeah, I don't hate that pick as well. Again, like you guys mentioned, we're starting to see the cornerbacks start to get more accolades and more recognition when it comes to this type of award because it was for so many years, it was dominated by either, defensive tackles or linebackers, right? I think that, now with what these freakish athletes are able to do at that cornerback position, they're starting to get their accolades. And again, it was on full display last year when Sauce Gardner won this award in as many years for a cornerback. So I had the same pick as Chris there as well. I'll be the chalk guy. I got to pick something for this Texans team to have some type of shining light. I mean, I hate it at 4-1, obviously, when he is the odds-on favorite. But look, this defense for the Texans was the absolute worst last year. There's no question when you talk about pass defense, run defense, and when you bring in a head coach like DeMeco Ryans, who was a coordinator at the San Francisco 49ers, whose defense year in and year out was at the top of the league. When Robert Saleh was there, obviously DeMeco Ryans was still one of the coaches there as well. Took over for him for the year that he left. Another top defense last year, and I think he's going to bring that mentality over to this Houston Texans team, where he was a former linebacker for this team. So he's, and players are buying into what he's trying to preach and coach there. But when he went out and got Will Anderson as your number 3 overall pick, we saw what he did in Bama. I'm not going to repeat his stats and what he was able to do there, but the Texans now have a legitimate, front 7 guy in Will Anderson to lead this team. So, we saw some of the flashes during preseason, what this guy is going to be able to do. And they're going to go up against some of the poorest offensive lines. I think Will Anderson will be able to take advantage of that. But, I mean, at 4-1, I don't like it, but I'm agreeing with Chris about, Devin Witherspoon right now, 20-1 over at FanDuel. All right, guys, before we get over to Offensive Rookie of the Year, let me tell everyone about DraftKings. We've been waiting 7 months without an official NFL regular season game, and now we are a couple days away from that. Well, The wait is over. NFL is officially here, and DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer for Week 1. This week, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single day of this September month. Check the app and see what you can get. Download now and use promo code SGP to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code SGP only on DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Hey, you probably want to get out there for NFL Week 1 to see your team play, or it might be NFL Week 2, depending on your team's schedule, to see that home opening game. Or you're still trying to get out to the ballpark before the MLB season wraps up. Or maybe you're a fan of WNBA. Hey, Game Time is here for you to buy those tickets, and they create a stress-free experience when you download the Game Time app. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't have to be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, but also they have music tickets, comedy shows, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have. Flash deals and last-minute tickets on the Game Time experience. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. And the best part I love about their app is that when you go to buy those tickets with those specific seats and specific row, you're going to get an image of what your exact view is going to be at that venue. Their lowest price are guaranteed event cancellation protection as well. Forget having to plan months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and much more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. They're so confident in their best price guarantee that if you find a price lower on any other website, the same section, the same row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. All you have to do is tap 2 times on the screen and you're set to go, and the tickets go directly to the app. You don't have to worry about going through your email box or waiting for them in the mailbox. No, they're right there on your phone. Tickets are sent directly, like I mentioned, to your phone. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, gentlemen, let's get over to Offensive Rookie of the Year for this upcoming season. Rod, why don't you lead us off with this category?
The world wants you to take Bijan Robinson. Everybody wants you to take Bijan.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it, right?
I mean, swear to God, that is the only team or the only guy that anybody's going to talk about, but not me, because I like to be contrarian. I want to toss out, and this is going to be a far stretch, 17-1, Jordan Addison as the Rookie of the Year.
Ding, 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 ding,
right?
ding, ding, ding.
Right? Let me tell you, slept on. He is in a pass-happy offense. He has already established himself as one of the best, obviously, in the draft already that came out of the draft, receivers out there. So, I mean, listen, he's going to share the field, yes, with Justin Jefferson. I get it. I 100% understand. But there is nothing that leads me to believe that this kid's not going to jump on the field and instantly be. And I'll let Chris make the stronger point for it. But I don't see him not benefiting from being on Kirk Cousins' offense, on being on this Minnesota offense, on sharing the field with a guy who's going to draw double coverage every single time he steps out on the field. I'm not scared of KJ Osborne. I'm not scared of anybody else that he's sharing the field with. I think he is going to make an instant impact. I think he, more than Bijan, more than the other guys that are in front of him, even Jahmyr Gibbs for that matter, and all 3 quarterbacks, which, it's hard for a rookie quarterback to take home this because they've got to be super spectacular. But yeah, Jordan Addison at 17-1. I think that's my pick right there.
Of all the times that I've done pods with Rod, I don't think I've ever seen him this confident, because this is the first time I've seen him give out a pick and his arms have been crossed, and that's how he's just been preaching to the choir. He was just sitting there like, this is it, 17-1. If you're watching live, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Chris, you also agreed with Jordan Addison here, man. You said ding, 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 ding. So what do you got, man?
That's why I got confident, because Chris was happy about it.
That is it, Rod. That is. I was gonna start to say the same exact thing. Like no Bijan for me. The quarterbacks all feel like they're in a very similar situation.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you'll break those down, but for me it's Addison as well. And I, in my notes when I was writing this down, I was like, man, like when I'm looking at these awards, I'm looking for opportunity first and foremost, and I'm looking for talent that's around you, right? So this he's not coming in with one of these quarterbacks, one of these rookie quarterbacks that's trying to throw him the ball. He's with, arguably the greatest regular season quarterback we've ever seen in Kirk Cousins. This guy religiously passes the ball down the field every season for 4,000 plus yards. He did so last season. And now Thielen's gone, right? That's the one point that Rod didn't mention, but that's 107 targets that somebody's going to garnish, next year. And we know Justin Jefferson is going to get his touches. And, the point about KJ Osborne, I think I agree with Rod saying there. That is a little bit of the competition. But one thing I went back and looked at, this Minnesota Vikings passing attack was actually eighth. They had the eighth highest rate of running 3 wide receivers. So it was a lot of slot last year, just in general. Plenty of mouths to feed. And I think that, Jordan, though, he'll come in and benefit the most from a guy like Justin Jefferson being on the other side. Also, take into account of this, like the Vikings they ranked 28th in defense.
Yeah.
So they still gonna be on the field a lot of the time, just going back and down the fourth to field. So for all of those reasons, I like that. I'm not going to regurgitate everything Rod said, but I'll just add those couple points. But it's Jordan Addison for me too. If you just watch what he did at USC last year, he's a possession receiver. He can stretch the field. He can, he just can catch the ball. He's big. He's physical. I like Jordan a lot. 17-1.
Yeah, you guys make some great points. I mean, it's number one, what you just mentioned there, Chris, is that this defense for the Vikings is still going to be terrible, right? So, I mean, we saw, I don't know, over the past several seasons, especially last season, that they were just involved in shootouts. Like they had games ending 33-30. And again, obviously, when you're scoring that many points, you're going to be throwing the football as well. We don't know what life is going to be like for the Vikings after Dalvin Cook. I know he was a big part of their offense as well. Obviously, a lot of people are high on Alexander Mattison coming into this year, but it's a great point what you guys make. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the league in his short time in the NFL. And now you're bringing a rookie like Jordan Addison to replace Adam Thielen, who was falling off a little bit, right? Maybe getting up there in age and not being that same guy that he was for the past several seasons. But now you add a young athletic guy like Jordan Addison. I like this pick from both of you guys as well. Just going off of Bijan, I mean, look, he's going to have a great season. There's no doubt about it. But again, he's the big sexy pick, the big chalky pick at plus 275 for a season-long award. I mean, I definitely see the potential with Bijan because I did watch a lot of Texas games last season, and the guy is a freak of nature. But we got to be constrained a little bit. And I think that we got to find some value here at 17-1 with Jordan Addison. I'm with you guys there as well. The one guy I did also, the one guy I did like is a guy that's right under him for some of the same reasons is Zay Flowers, 18-1. He goes into a Baltimore Ravens offense now that traditionally we didn't see have a lot of success with their wide receivers. Right? The most consistent guy was your tight end, Mark Andrews. But now you brought in a new offensive coordinator for this team, and they think they want to open it up for Lamar Jackson's passing ability, or open it up for his arm at least to throw the football down the field. And I think Zay Flowers, coming into his wide receiving group that consists of guys like I said, Mark Andrews. You have OBJ. Not sure what we're going to get out of him coming off a torn ACL and missing the entire season last year. I mean, he could still be the OBJ that we saw with the Rams, but we've seen traditionally that it's difficult for guys to have huge seasons coming off of torn ACLs and those type of injuries. So now you're bringing a young guy like Zay Flowers, who I think is going to have, number one, a lot of success in this offense and really be that guy for this team. He could be a great down the field threat. He's a guy that can catch the ball and get yak for you. And again, if this Ravens team is going to have success, especially with all the injuries that they've dealt with in their backfield, they're going to have to throw the football. And I think Zay Flowers is the guy that can really be a beneficiary, I should say, of those pass catches from Lamar Jackson. So again, I can see him getting up there in 1,200, 1,300 yards for this upcoming season. Tack on the touchdowns there as well. At 18-1, I don't hate Zay Flowers here, Rod.
Yeah, again, it's situational, right? That's what we talk about all the time with these rookies. It's can they make an instant impact? Because a lot of times they're sitting on the bench, they're not going to win the award, and neither one of these guys are going to be sitting on the bench. And we know that Lamar Jackson can pass. We don't see it very often, but we know that he can pass. So when he does, and Zay Flowers doesn't have the Justin Jefferson on the other end either. So if you want to kind of take that away from it, he may even emerge as the number one before the end of the season. Who knows? And if that happens, then that definitely strengthens his case.
Chris, thoughts on Zay Flowers?
Rod, all of my notes is what I came up with so far.
It's usually me. Now it's Rod.
Yeah,
we're catching on to you, Chris.
Right, that's what it is. But I think Rod hit it on the head. We don't know where he's going, where Mr. Flowers is going to end on the depth chart, right? Like you mentioned him, but what version of OBJ do we get, right? Does OBJ get hurt? Because then that's even more opportunity for a guy like Zay Flowers. And you mentioned the offensive coordinator. We've talked about this when we broke down, the AFC division just in general, right? So. A lot of opportunity is going to be there for a guy like Zay Flowers. Pretty sure he has a lot that he wants to prove too. And like we talked about, right? You have to have opportunity, right? You have to have the opportunity, and that'll be presented to him. So I don't think it's a bad pick at all.
All right, before we get over to some more award markets for the upcoming NFL season, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. With their fantasy pick'em game, you can pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do, spending your Sundays and watching the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money doing it. Like we just mentioned, the two guys we're probably going to take the higher on this season or this week. One, we're looking at Jordan Addison. We're looking at Zay Flowers to make an impact in their first NFL regular season game. So watch along. Make your picks and maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or their website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by the SGP Patreon. Make sure you check out the Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon. Sign up for the Patreon to get access to exclusive contests, including the NFL Win Totals contest with a $1,000 first place prize, plus the weekly Patreon Pick'em. Patreon members also double their prize in the College Football Bankroll Challenge. The Patreon is a great way to support the network and fight back against corporate gambling. To get all the details, go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. All right, gentlemen, let's get over to the next awards market. Let's go to the veterans for both of these awards. Let's start with Defensive Player of the Year for this upcoming season. Currently, I am seeing the odds-on favorite right now is going to be Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys at plus 450, followed by Myles Garrett 8-1, TJ Watt plus 850, Nick Bosa 12-1, Sauce Gardner 15-1, Max Crosby 20-1, Aiden Hutchinson 25-1. Chris Jones, 25-1. Aaron Donald, 3-time award winner, 25-1, are the current. I think that's about top 9 guys there for this award for this upcoming season. Last year, God, who even won it last year? I don't even remember.
Bosa, right?
Was it Bosa last year? For the 2020 season? Yeah, it was Nick Bosa. You're right there, Chris. Well, Chris, why don't you lead us off, man? Defensive Player of the Year for this upcoming season. What's on your mind?
I'm going contrarian. I'm digging deep again, man. I'm going other Bosa. I'm going Joey. I just need him to stay healthy. 50-1. 50-1 if I can get this guy to stay healthy. We know he suffered the growing tear, which limited him just 5 games last season. He did come back, though. That was one of my main reasons why I kind of liked him, because he did come back and he participated in Week 17, which to me, that kind of lends to it wasn't a season-ending injury, which, needed a lot of more rehab afterwards. So I like that he came back before the season ended. He got his work in, get his strength in. And you just go back and kind of look at his history, for 5 years, in 5 years that he's actually played 12 or more games, he's had 10.5 sacks in each, right? And we know that that's typically what wins you this award, right? You got to be able to fill the stat sheet up, and you need your team to have success as well. He's had in two seasons ago, he actually forced seven fumbles as well. And of course, he just played 5 games last season that had just 2.5 sacks. He does get the benefit of having Khalil Mack on the other side, which should garner a lot of attention, so he can get a lot of one-on-ones and not see as many double teams. The Chargers offense actually projects to be even better than they were last season, so the opposing teams are going to be probably playing from behind if we can get this Chargers team to just be healthy. I love what they have on the offensive side of the ball, getting their wide receivers back. Herbert hopefully can stay healthy throughout the season. So I think that, lends well for him as well. You look at the offense for the Chargers. They finished 10th in yards last year, third in offensive passing yards, and just barely outside the top 10 in points per game. So I think the defense will be on the field because the Chargers like to score. They like to score in chunks. They like to score quickly. So I think, all of those things said, I like Bosa to especially for a long shot, 50-1. I think it's definitely worth a sprinkle. We just need him to stay healthy. But yeah, I love the fact that he doesn't get the double teams this year. Khalil Mack should be able to kind of, wreck things up just a tad bit and make it a little bit easier for Bosa this year.
Yeah, look, I mean, when we talk about Joey Bosa, it's about him staying healthy, right? Because we know about the Bosa brothers, the potential is definitely 100% there. Nick Bosa obviously coming off of winning it last season, and it just health has just been a huge concern for Joey Bosa. But the seasons that he's been healthy and played at least, well, the 3 seasons that he played all 16 games, I'll start with this. He had double-digit sacks. We know he's that type of player, right? The forced fumbles are always there for him as well. Last season, he only ended up playing in 5 games, ended up with 2.5 sacks. But, we talk about this Chargers team, it's always the focus is on the offense, right? We talk about the Justin Herberts of the world, the Austin Ecklers, the Keenan Allens of the world. But the defense doesn't get a lot of recognition because they've dealt with a lot of injuries, guys like Derwin James, and bring over Khalil Mack, and, like we just mentioned with Joey Bosa. So, when we talk about teams like in other sports, like you just won one healthy season. We talked about the Niners. Can we just get one healthy season and see what they can do? I think Chargers also fit that mold for this upcoming season. It's really on the defensive side because, again, we know what Joey Bosa can do. We've seen it at 50-1. Like Chris said, it's just about him being healthy, and I think that he may just be able to do that for this upcoming season at 50-1. I don't hate that at all. Rod, what do you got for Defensive Player of the Year?
Well, I will say that, Chris, that's a big swing, and it's definitely a good swing because that's one that'll pay off really big for you if you manage to hit it. But listen, I'm just going to play Homer. I'm just going to play the game of we'll go back to where it started. Nick Bosa. I'll take his brother. Look, this is a guy that won it last season, and I don't know that he's going to slow down. He's about to become the highest paid player of any sport in any history. I don't know. It's not the same, but he's about to get paid a pretty good chunk, which is going to definitely fire his engines up again to have another spectacular season. 18.5 sacks last season. Holy cow. It's just, the dude's a monster. We know the 49ers defense has gotten nothing but better in the offseason. So there's just no reason to think that Nick Bosa is going to slow down. And if he puts together another season like he did this season, he's not even the favorite to repeat. That's the crazy thing about it. He is still 12-1 to win this award. It's not bad. I mean, it's better than throwing plus 275 down on Bijan, who may not get it, right? So I'll take 12-1 for the guy that won it last year and has pretty much every opportunity to do it again. Like I said, this 49ers defense has not gotten any worse. It's gotten better, and he's a large part of that. So give me Nick Bosa again. Like I said, for my 49ers, for just me being able to cheer for it, I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we talk about the best defenses in the league, I think the Niners are probably at the top of that list. There's no question, just because how well coached they are and the talent that they do have on that side of the football. So again, this has been one award, guys, that for Defensive Player of the Year, I think in any sport, I think we could probably throw in maybe NBA MVP in that conversation as well, Chris, that you can have a repeat winner like back-to-back years. Like we've seen it with MVP. Aaron Rodgers did it. We saw Aaron Donald do it, winning it multiple times, or at least back-to-back seasons. JJ Watt has also done it as well. So again, if you're going to have the best defense, the best player is probably going to lead that way, and he's going to accumulate a lot of stats. And I think the one thing that we've kind of noticed about the Defensive Player of the Year award winners is that it's more than likely either a defensive tackle or it's a linebacker that's winning this award. Because I know we talked about cornerbacks with the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. The last cornerback to win it, at least Defensive Player of the Year, was Stephon Gilmore back in 2019. Then you got to go all the way back to, you could throw in Troy Polamalu in 2010 to safety. And the year before that, 2009, Charles Woodson. So it's really a linebacker / defensive tackle award. I had 2 guys that I did like on this list, and one was mentioned in our chat there, Hassan Reddick. The guy's been an absolute monster. 3 straight seasons of double-digit sacks. Last season, he had, I think, 6 forced fumbles for the Eagles defense. 5 forced fumbles, 3 of them that were recovered. Going back to the last 3 seasons, 12 and a half sacks, 11 sacks, and 16 sacks last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. And when we talk about this Eagles team, the strength of their defense is obviously that front seven. We talked about that when we were doing our season-long player props. That their secondaries has a big question mark. That's going to present a lot of pressure for the front seven to perform for this defense. And I think at the top of the list, Hassan Reddick is there at that linebacker position for this Philadelphia Eagles team. So again, 16 sacks last year. Can he repeat doing that? Absolutely. I think he can do that. That was one guy that I liked. And then the other one I wanted to mention was Quinn Williams, 30-1 of the New York Jets. I think the potential is definitely there for Quinn Williams. I think the defense is obviously well coached because you have a defensive-minded head coach in Robert Saleh, and I know Rod can attest to that. And now he doesn't have to worry about the offense because you bring in former MVP and you brought in an offensive coordinator that's worked with Aaron Rodgers. Now Robert Saleh can focus on that defense. I know Quinn Williams got paid this offseason. I think that, again, if this team is going to have success for the Jets this upcoming season, you're not worried about the offense because now you got your quarterback. Defense is where it's got to be. I think for their best player, at least in the front seven, you can make maybe the Sauce Gardner is probably their best defensive player. But at 30-1, Quinn Williams, I know that the sacks aren't there, but I think this could be a year where he has a big year and maybe gets up there into that 14, 15 sack range for this upcoming season. And Serial in the chat, they're saying this is Parsons' award. Sorry, it is not his award this year. Chris, any thoughts on those two guys?
First and foremost, you mentioned Quinn Williams. I think I mean, a defensive tackle for the Jets project to have. I know they're really, really high on their defense, even after they finished so well last year. I read some reports actually earlier today. They were talking about potentially having like Chicago Bear 85 Bear, Legion of Boom 2013 Seattle defense. So I don't know if it's going to live up to that hype, but I do think that they have pretty big names. And I can see he's going to be a big part of it. We all know that everything starts up front, right? Starts with that defensive line, and whose line can win, right? Is it going to be offensive line or is it going to be the defensive line that's going to get enough pressure? And I think that he has been somebody in the past that has disrupted pass plays, running plays, and I think he'll continue to do that this season. So I couldn't talk you off of that one at all. I like that one.
Rod, any thoughts on those two guys?
My only thought is on Parsons. I will root for no Cowboy. So that is all.
Well, I will as well, Rod. That's something I'm not on either. Wasn't gonna mention his name.
Well, and he's plus 450 to win this. Like it's I don't know.
It's not fun. Come on.
That's not fun. That's not fun.
All right, guys, let's get over to Offensive Player of the Year for this upcoming season. Last year, I believe Justin Jefferson was the award winner after the incredible season he had. I believe he had 1,800 yards last season receiving, and I think he did take on honors for Offensive Player of the Year. This season, the odds-on favorite is going to be, let me get to that screen. We have Jamar Chase 11-1. Justin Jefferson 13-1, Christian McCaffrey 15-1, Nick Chubb 17-1, Justin Fields 20-1, Tyreek Hill 20-1, Joe Burrow 25-1, Garrett Wilson 25-1, Lamar 25-1, and then Jalen Hurts at 30-1. Rod, why don't you lead us off with this category, Offensive Player of the Year, man? What's on your mind here?
Stop me if you've heard this one before, but I'm taking a 49er. A full season of Christian McCaffrey in the San Francisco 49ers offense. The league better be put on notice. I'm telling you right now. At 15-1, too, I very much like the price for this. He's definitely among the favorites, but I don't know that I can go too much farther down past him to look for this unless you want Jalen Hurts at 30-1. If you think he's going to turn like Chris is already there. All right. I won't steal your thunder there, but Chris, Christian McCaffrey, look, the 49ers, just like their defense, their offense has not gotten any worse. I think everybody's making a big deal out of the quarterback controversy that just happened and the fact that Trey Lance is now with the Cowboys. But, here's the thing. Christian McCaffrey is going to do nothing but help Brock Purdy make this a stellar season for the 49ers. And we know what he's capable of. Of course, injury is always the big thing, especially with these guys that are injury prone. But I don't know what it is about having a positive outlook on things, but it goes a long way to keep you healthy. Like Christian McCaffrey is in a way better situation now than he ever was with Carolina. And for some reason, like that little bump on your knee doesn't hurt quite as much when you like where you're at. So I think that that's going to go a long way to help him perform better this season. And that's scary because if we get Christian McCaffrey from a couple of seasons ago on this 49ers offense, that's definitely easy for him to be offensive player of the year.
I think when we talk about offensive player of the year, especially running backs is number one, is that if you're just a sole running back, you probably have to get 2,000 rushing yards for you to win this award. But a guy like Christian McCaffrey is a threat both in the backfield and catching the ball. I think those type of players, especially running backs, are few and far between, at least in this league. And I think I forgot, we had the whole conversation on the offseason about running backs, not getting the awards. I think it was Travis Etienne who said you have to expand your game, that you have to change the running back position, that you have to be more than just a runner in this league. You have to also be a pass catcher. And when you talk about guys at the top of the list, that's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, when healthy, this guy's an absolute freak of nature. Last season, total in 17 games in 2022 with Carolina and San Francisco, 1,139 rushing yards. Add to the fact 741 receiving yards, very, very close to having a 2,000 all scrimmage yard season. And that's what Christian McCaffrey is. We've seen him do it. Going back to 2019, close to 1,400 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yard season. I know obviously that's 5 years ago, and he's an older player now, and we've read about the injuries that he's suffered. But like Rod mentioned, that those knee bumps aren't as bad when you're with the 49ers and not on an organization that hasn't won a lot over the past several seasons. So again, we talk about some of these awards. Everything is always health based, but I mean, I can't argue against CMC here. Chris, you kind of tipped your hand there on who you like for offensive player of the year. Who do you like?
Yeah, so just mention it, just what Rob mentioned. I know when we broke this division down, I talked about Christian McCaffrey. I love Christian McCaffrey this year as well. So yeah, I would only be able to get there with Rod on that, and I love that he's getting it. What'd you say, Rod? 15-1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing it at 15-1 right now.
Yeah, 15-1. I love that. It takes the pressure off Brock Purdy to have to perform as well as he did last year. So I like that first and foremost. But moving along, like Rod said, he mentioned the guy. You mentioned him as well. If he was at the end of the eyes, and if I listen, if I got my money tied up, it's kind of like what Rod was. Rod been giving out these plus 500, plus 400, plus 350s. We've been doing these season breakdowns. Well, we got our money tied up. We might as well get a big return, right? Especially if we think we found something mispriced. And Hurts, you mentioned 3-1. Right. So if I can get, plus 3,000 for Hurts to be offensive, player of the year, I got to take a stab as much as I'm a Commander fan. This guy was, the favorite to win the award last season before he got the shoulder injury in week 15 versus the Chicago Bears. You got A.J. Brown in the second season. He had nearly 1,500 yards last season. Their running backs changed, so the backfield will look a little different, but it's still going to be running back committee. If you just go in and they don't have a solid elite number one. I also just a couple just things that won't show up in the box score. I love that a couple weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now, it was revealed to the world that Jalen Hurts has the Super Bowl screensaver from them losing the Super Bowl. So it's little things like that, that make, you get so close to, achieving that goal and then, kind of falling short, even if it's a penalty or, losing by a field goal, whatever the case might be. So I love that he'll come into this year, extremely motivated. You look at the Eagles offensive line, it'll still be one of the best offensive line to kind of keep them protected. And one thing we got to remember about the Eagles is they were a first half team last year. They took their foot up off the brake a lot. Like first half differential as far as scoring, they were, I think, 121 points better than any other team last season. But they also faced the easiest schedule last season in terms of efficiency. This season, they have the sixth largest increase in schedule difficulty, and they're projected to face a top 10 schedule. So I think it'll make it a little bit more difficult for him. But I think he rises to the occasion, and he needs that because then the Eagles won't be able to play so conservative in the second half. If Jalen Hurts can throw for 4,200 yards, which is only 500 more than he threw for last season, and 26 touchdowns, which is only 4 more than he threw for last season, keeping in mind that he missed 2 games, and run for, maybe 850 yards, which is 100 yards more in 2 games, so 50 yards apiece, which is what he averaged, I think he can get this award. So if you're giving it to me at 30-1, I think I at least got to put a sprinkle on Mr. Jalen Hurts at plus 3,000.
Yeah, it also brings up the conversation, like, do you take him for MVP or do you take him at Offensive Player of the Year? Because obviously you're getting better odds right now for Offensive Player of the Year. I believe his I want to say his MVP odds are like 15-1. We'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, I mean, look, Jalen Hurts is another guy that we talk about, another quarterback that we talked about, Christian McCaffrey, that can do multiple things, right? You can throw the football. You can also run the football. I mean, we cashed on so many props last year with Jalen Hurts as far as his rushing yards went, because he's just that type of guy. And for this offense to succeed, obviously it starts and stops with Jalen Hurts. And, I think the little things that we hear about Jalen Hurts, like you mentioned, with the screensaver and all things like that, this offense is going to pick up where they left off last year. I think the entire pressure is going to be on the defense. And this just might be another team, like we talked about, like with the Vikings, that is going to be involved in shootouts for this upcoming season. Those 33-30 type of finals, a lot of points being scored, and obviously that's just going to pile up the stats for Jalen Hurts. So I'm expecting a lot of big things from Jalen Hurts in his what, this is third season as a full-time, or the second season as a full-time starter for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, especially with all the weapons that they do have, whether it's in the backfield or whether it's at the wide receiving group, I think that, again, the weapons are around him. It's about him, probably utilizing and racking up the stats there. So Jalen Hurts, I can't argue against, especially him being a Houston guy. Couple guys that I did like here. I'll throw out 2 here quickly before we get to Coach of the Year and MVP. Tyreek Hill, 20-1. I think that it's obviously contingent on if Tua can stay healthy, and that's a big, capital I, capital F, because we've seen last season with all the concussions that he dealt with and all the stuff that he also dealt with back in his days at Alabama. But Tyreek Hill last season, I believe, finished up with 1,800 yards last year. And that was with the amount of games that Tua missed last season. We know how prolific this offense is going to be, or is, when Tua is on the field, especially when you have fast guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the other side. But last season, Tyreek Hill, 119 receptions, 1,710 yards. And I believe Tua only played in, I want to say, like 12 games last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to quickly look that up here. Last season, he played in 13 games. So even if maybe I played, 2-3 more games, I would not have been shocked if Tyreek Hill would have gone for 2,000 yards. And I believe you also on the offseason came out and said that I'm going to have a 2,000-yard receiving season last year. I mean, if there's a guy that can do it, we know what Tyreek Hill can do. We saw the success that he had with Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's not Patrick Mahomes, but the potential is definitely there with Tua. And if he's able to stay healthy and how prolific this offense has been, I think Tyreek Hill can definitely get in the realm of close to 2,000 yards, if not lead the league in receiving yards this season. The other one, Garrett Wilson at 25-1. We saw with Devontae Adams, and I think we talked about this when we did our season-long player props. We saw what Devontae Adams was able to do with Aaron Rodgers, and now Garrett Wilson has Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. Obviously, last year coming off of a season where he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, but now you have a former MVP as your quarterback. I'm not going to be surprised if Garrett Wilson has double-digit touchdowns and he's in the realm of 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 yards for this upcoming season, because we saw how great he was at Ohio State. He had a great rookie season, obviously, last year. He's only going to get better when you have a legitimate quarterback back there. We've already seen, the highlights or the film, I guess, whatever you want to call it, on Twitter. And, we saw the connection that they had for the touchdown in the preseason game. Obviously, it was only one drive, but I think this is going to be a big season for Garrett Wilson. So a couple of wide receivers I like there. 20-1 Tyreek Hill and 25-1 for Garrett Wilson here. Chris, any thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to love them both. These are high volume guys. You talk about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers he's like when he finds a wide receiver that he loves, it's like peanut butter and jelly. Like we saw with Devon, it felt like Devontae Adams had like 500 receptions like year after year after year, because Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball every single time the defense knows it's coming. They double him. So you know that they've spent, ever since Aaron Rodgers, dug himself out of that dark hole that he went into, I'm pretty sure they've been spending time together, getting on the same page, developing that cohesiveness. And it's scary, actually, when you think about him winning that award without an elite quarterback. And now you give him Aaron Rodgers, who this may be just what, the defense is definitely what Aaron Rodgers needs. But Aaron Rodgers wanted that freedom, to outside of management and things were going wrong in Green Bay, and now he has that. So if we see a rejuvenated Aaron Rodgers and we see Wilson, kind of shatter some records, maybe just some Jet records in general, really wouldn't surprise me at all. I like him more than any, but Tyreek Hill's like an animal, like a legit animal, like I'm like a cheetah maybe. Like he's just on the field, running as fast as he can, catching the ball. He's so elusive. So we know what he can do once he gets the ball in his hands. He's a deep ball threat as well, can catch the ball on the slant, take it 95 yards. So I couldn't talk you off of either one of those. I like them both.
Rod, any thoughts on those two guys?
The fact that Tyreek Hill is 20-1 when we know what he can do, that's insane. So jump on that now before that changes midway through. 4 games into the season. And as far as Garrett Wilson, finally a young receiver that Aaron Rodgers is not going to get pissed at every 5 seconds. So I think good things are in store for him.
All right, boys, let's get over to, I think this is my favorite category to talk about every single year, and that's going to be Coach of the Year. Last season, we're coming off of Brian Daboll winning this award. I have a lot of thoughts on that. We probably need another hour or so to talk about that on why he got the award. But I've kind of been keeping track of some of the, I guess, criteria of when it comes to Coach of the Year. So what I've found is that since this goes back to 2012, so the Coach of the Year, and I'll quickly go through this and we'll get to our picks here. So prior to last year, before Brian Daboll won, since 2012, every single one of those coaches had double-digit wins. 11 or more was the number. Did they win the division for those since 2012 up until last year? Let's see here. 8 out of the 11 won the division. And then there was an improvement from year over year. So the previous year to the next year, the differential in wins was about 5.5 wins improvement. So that's kind of where, I started my research here a little bit, some of the criteria that I kind of found on what it takes to win Coach of the Year. But Rod, why don't you lead us off with Coach of the Year? What are you thinking for this upcoming season as far as that award goes?
Are you ready for this? How about a former 49er coach, Robert Saleh, 16-1. I have slowly softened my hate of the Jets over the last month, and I don't know what it is. I don't know how it developed, but it's here. But I can imagine a world in which they do end up winning their division at the very least, right? I mean, and making some kind of a playoff run. Obviously, we know the headlines. We know why this team is as heavily favored. We just talked about Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson being a connection that can be feared throughout the league. And if we're talking about one of Aaron Rodgers' receivers being a contention for an award at the end of the year, that means that team has to have a stellar season. That means that Robert Saleh is going to have to bring them up from the depths of laughability to a contending team that is full of guys that can make this run into the postseason. So he's 16-1 right now on DraftKings, and I think that's a pretty good price for him at this point, because again, for him to be able to take this Jets team, which everybody's been, Jets, to wow, oh shit, the Jets. Like this is what we're looking at when we're talking about Coach of the Year, right? We were talking about Doug Peterson turning the Jaguars into a contender, and his name being tossed around all over the place. I think the same can be said this season for Robert Saleh, and nothing tells me otherwise that he's not a heavy favorite, or at least should be. I mean, what, Dan Campbell 8.5 to 1, and Robert Saleh almost twice that. I mean, I'll take Robert Saleh over Dan Campbell.
Last time Jets made the playoffs was 2010. So when we talk about accomplishments that coaches have made for a particular season, breaking a playoff drought, I think ends up at that top of the list. I'm quickly trying to see how many games the Jets won last year. So 7. So let's say they end up 11-6 on the season. They win the division. They break a playoff drought. That's a pretty good resume for Robert Saleh to win Coach of the Year. So yeah, can't argue against that. Chris, what do you got for Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I like Rod's pick as well. You can't go wrong with that. It actually meets the criteria for everything that you checked off, And as you were going through your criteria, I'm like, okay, let me make sure mine meets this criteria as well. It is who Rod mentioned, right? It's Doug Peterson. I like Doug for this award. I think he's solid, and what I really love is the price, right? It's all about the price that we can get him at. So 2-1, he's plus 2,000 over on DraftKings. And the Jaguars actually took that huge leap that you talked about last year. You know, if it wasn't until the second half, and I liked them to kind of build on that. That was Peterson's first year with Trevor Lawrence, and after Urban Meyer, thank God he's out of there, right? Looked like he was working for the opposite team, but you know, he was playing. He played he was there for 2 years before that. So you look at the Jaguars; they scored almost 10 points per game more with Peterson than they did with Urban Meyer the year before. And the Jaguars also, you know, kind of turned around at the bye week, because they went into the bye week actually 3-6 and won 6 of their last 7 games. And they ended up going to division. They're division favorites this year as well. I think I looked earlier, they were -155 to win that division. So they are expected to win the division. But I think winning the division for them this year is expected. We need them to probably win a playoff game this year. And I think that's feasible, maybe, just depending on where they land and who they end up playing. It's going to be difficult, of course, but you would expect, you know, I expect Trevor Lawrence to just to continue to progress, right? We always talk about quarterbacks getting a little bit better in year 2 than they were in year 1. And then from year 2 to year 3, it's another leap that's supposed to happen as well. So I love that, you know, he was able to do that last year. You also look at their offensive line and the secondary, both of them actually ranked bottom 10. But you do go out, you get Calvin Ridley, you got Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, you got Evan Ingram. And I think if Doug can push Trevor to be even better than he was, and maybe exceed everyone's expectations just a little bit, because there is going to be a quarterback, probably a couple of them, that are going to exceed all of our expectations, and we're going to wonder, where did that come from, right? I like Peterson's shot at 20-1.
I honestly thought that he should have won it last year, just for what they did in the second half of the season and coming back and winning this division. I don't know after how many years, but it makes a lot of sense. Right? I think they're expected. I mean, would you be surprised if Jacksonville ended up as the number 1 seed in the AFC? I wouldn't be shocked if they were up there. And if Trevor Lawrence doesn't have an MVP caliber year, you have to give some type of an award to that team for being the number 1 seed. And obviously, that would go to a guy like Doug Peterson at 20-1. I don't hate that at all. 2 guys I did like here for this award: Arthur Smith, number 1, 14-1. This division for the NFC South is obviously a team that finished, I guess, tied for last or tied for second, however you want to process it in your mind. Last season, this division is going to go from worst to first. Atlanta officially in the standings was last, but there's a lot of hype coming around this team for this upcoming season. They have a number 1 easy schedule. We talked about the top 7 or top 5 easy schedule. You have a fantastic backfield with Bijan, Cordell Patterson, Tyler Algier as well. Now we're going to get out of Desmond Ridder, but I think, just to kind of sum it up, is that if the Atlanta Falcons go on to win this division, I think Arthur Smith would probably get Coach of the Year, just because of what he's able to do, taking a team from the Falcons from 7 wins to possibly 9.5 is their win total right now, to getting to 10 wins or possibly 11 wins, because how easy their schedule is and winning the NFC South division. So that was one guy that I did like. And then another one that I did like, which kind of made sense to me, and I think this is kind of correlated because this division also is I think kind of open. Matt LaFleur at 16-1 for the Green Bay Packers. I think if the Packers go on to win this division, number 1, it's because of the coaching of Matt LaFleur, and because also Jordan Love had a big season. But it's also added to the fact that, hey, they were still able to do all these things even without Aaron Rodgers, who won multiple MVPs for this team. And we kind of talked about, the disconnect that was possibly there between Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur when he got hired there. I think that for Matt LaFleur, I think that if they're able to get into the playoffs and get into maybe double-digit wins for this upcoming season and win this division, I think that's the biggest priority, because we've seen the past couple of seasons where they've won 13 games in a row. 13 games on the regular season, and they've won that award. But I think for life after Aaron Rodgers, if he's able to do that, I think he should be considered for Coach of the Year at 16-1. Those were the 2 that I did like. Any thoughts on those 2 here, Rod?
No better middle finger to the person that left than to move on and do well without them. So yeah, I definitely see that. And that does make a strong argument too, especially if they do end up winning the division. It's a tough division. I mean, that's not a pushover division. So if he can hold serve with what he's got after Aaron Rodgers leaves, I think that makes a better case than Mike McCarthy in the chat.
That's a different conversation. You know what? I always talked to. I had a conversation with Moneyline Mac about Dallas for this upcoming season, but I'll save that for another time. Chris, any thoughts on those two guys that I mentioned?
Yeah, I like them both. I like them both. I think Arthur he was actually my second. He was my runner up, honorable mention. Just because like you mentioned that NFC South is going to be wide open, right? Like we have no idea who's going to win the division. And what if it is Bijan? What if Bijan and Pitts and and all of those guys in Atlanta just kind of do what we all know that they have potential of doing. Then they win the division, and he looks like and Riddler has a really, really good second season, or we could say 1.5 year season because he played a few games in the last year. If they do all of that, then I think there is potential for them to potentially win this division, because we are looking at Derek Carr to win the division right now. So anything can happen down there. So I couldn't talk you off of that one at all. They did a really good job of kind of using them. Riddler, that is, sparingly last year, and kind of protecting them as well. Adding Bijan is only going to help, so I can see it.
All right, two categories left here. Comeback player of the year. I think this might be a quick conversation because right now, odds-on favorite is Damar Hamlin after what transpired with him last season. He's at a -285 favorite. I mean, obviously, it makes a lot of sense. He made the roster for the Buffalo Bills. I think a lot of people have just gone on and said that, hey, if he plays one or two downs or even just steps on the field for a play, he's probably going to end up winning this award after, what transpired with him last season on the field, potentially almost losing his life on the football field. But for him to come back, I think is makes sense why he's at -285. But did you guys have anybody else as far as comeback player of the year here? Chris, I'll start with you.
So if he did lose his life, he just got it back. Like he was granted it back, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he is the odds-on favorite, like you said. If I was going to look at anybody else, it'd probably be Tua, because I would bank on him being healthy, coming back after the concussion, dating all the way back to his college days. So it's a high risk, high reward. I think he's 2-1, so plus 2,000. I think that was over on. I got to check the book. But you really just need him to avoid injury, and specifically the head injuries, right? Going back to 2017, he's never played with the same offensive coordinator 2 consecutive seasons. So this will be the first time that he's able to do that. You still got Jalen Waddle there. You still got Tyreek Hill there. Both of them are pretty, good on as far as being healthy and playing throughout the entirety of their seasons. They both played 17 games last year. And you look at Tua, 3,600 yards in 13 games last season, 25 touchdowns. If he's able to do something like that, especially with the lineup, the offensive lineup pretty much stayed the same. I think that, he has potential to win. He also added a lot of muscle mass over the season. We know he had the back and forth with Ryan Clark, about, not getting into it with him, but, just wanting them to know that he's been putting in the work. And I heard that he learned judo over the offseason as well. With the goal of kind of helping brace for falls, right? So, it seems like he's taking all the precautionary steps. So if I was going to, put a sprinkle anywhere else, it would be probably Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, my sprinkle here was going to be John Mechie of the Houston Texans, coming off of the torn ACL, number one when he was at Bama. Last season in his rookie year, missed the entire 2022 season with being diagnosed with leukemia. When we talk about comeback player of the year award, it's usually narrative driven, right? Because there's some type of injury that you're coming back from or medical, situation that a player dealt with. So at 20-1, that was the one I had for John Mechie to win comeback player of the year. Rod, did you have anybody that you liked for comeback player of the year?
Well, I mean, again, I'm going to treat this like we treat F1. We know Max Verstappen is going to win this, but if he does not, so we know Damar Hamlin's going to win this one. So if he does not, I actually want J.K. Dobbins at 50-1. This one's a pretty decent one, right? I mean, he can come back and get 2,000 yards, right? Maybe not, but I mean, he could have a Derrick Henry type of a season. He's capable of doing fantastic things. I mean, we haven't seen this guy live up to his full potential yet. So if he can stay healthy and if he can come back from obviously he's a comeback player of the year candidate, if he can come back and post the season we know he's capable of in the offense that is basically built toward running the ball, I think if he has a gigantic season and the Ravens do well, I think he's in the mix for this as well.
All right, let's get over to the final award, the most prestigious award in the NFL. That is going to be the most valuable player. Last season, the award winner for this was none other than Mr. Mahomes, having a 5,000 yard plus season, 40 plus touchdowns, his second MVP award. More times than not, it's a quarterback that does win this award. Rod, why don't you lead us off with your MVP pick for this upcoming season? Who do you love?
Are you ready for another season of Aaron Rodgers as the MVP? Because I don't know if the world's ready for that. 16-1, he's there. I mean, you when you go to a new place, sometimes you just want to show the old person that you still had what it took to be that. You want to prove to them it wasn't you, it was me. I was the one that did all of this. So when you go to a team like the Jets and turn it around like that, that are there. Well, okay, you were already an MVP. Well, now I see you're doing it with another team, a worse team than your old team, as some could argue. Then now, of course, it was you. So that means you're still deserving of the honor, right? Basically, when you're already an MVP, you've got to prove that you weren't. So Aaron Rodgers has to do a lot this season to prove that he's not an MVP. And the fact that he's 16-1, where a guy like Mahomes is at 6-1, Burrow is at 7.5-1, like those guys you expect to be up there. But I think it would make a bigger statement for Aaron Rodgers to go in and make the Jets a lot like Robert Saleh. I mean, it's the same sort of argument that you can make for him being coach of the year. If that happens, then Aaron Rodgers is probably a gigantic part of that, which means he should be in line for offensive or just MVP altogether, right? So at 16-1, it's not a bad speculation. He's proven he can do it before on lesser Green Bay teams. So why can't he do it with a lesser New York Jets team?
I mean, look, it kind of feels like the Tom Brady effect when he left New England. Obviously, the next season that he led him to the Super Bowl, and they won a Super Bowl ring there. But you take a look at this Jets offense, the weapons are there for him, right? We talked about Garrett Wilson. He brings in this guy Randall Cobb. Not for sure how effective he's going to be. The backfield is there as well, right? I know Breece Hall's coming back from the torn ACL. They added Dalvin Cook. And again, on the offense side, that Alan Lazard they added as well with his guy from Green Bay there. So it's definitely there for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's done it 4 times before, going for a 5th MVP. It starts and stops with Aaron Rodgers. His team is going to have success, and I think that's just what the criteria is for an MVP. For at least the NFL award. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue against Aaron Rodgers at 16-1 here. Chris, thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? Then you want to give us your pick as well.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against Aaron Rodgers either. I think Rod laid it out perfectly. I just love it's almost like a revenge narrative, right? Like, yeah, I'm in my new place and this is what I'm doing with my new shiny tools and watch how this works out for me, right? So I couldn't talk right off of that one at all. I'm going a little bit, just a tad bit slighter odds. If I'm playing these, I want to just kind of dig a little bit deeper. I'm actually going Trevor. I'm going Trevor Lawrence at 18-1 odds. And I talked about Doug Peterson. I talked about just as far as coach of the year, and I talked about this team. Kind of like just catch the stride. I think that they are a little bit better than they were last year. I think they propelled themselves off of finishing last season the way that they did, winning 6 of their last 7 games. And you look at Trevor Lawrence last season. I mean, this dude, 66% completion rate, 4,100 yards. He threw for 25 touchdowns. And I can't take the Patrick Mahomes at 6-1 and Joe Burrow at 7-1 and Josh Allen at 7.5-1, 7.5-1. So for me, I gotta go, with a guy like Trevor Lawrence. I like the untapped potential, right? Like if Trevor Lawrence throws for 6 more touchdowns and finishes with 31 and throws for 500 more yards and finishes with 4,600, everybody's gonna be like, wow. Right. But you kind of got to see that project. You got to kind of project that. So that's why I like the price that you can get him. You can get Mr. Lawrence at 18-1 right now. I think the Jaguar, I mentioned the weapons that he has already, so I won't, talk about those, but he has plenty of weapons to get the ball, downfield and be able to kind of move it. And it's also that second to third year. It's also that, first to second year as far as, coaching. He's going to be with Peterson second year and then third year in the league. So I just expect some progression, and I love the numbers that he put up last year at already having 4,100 yards.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, the potential is what we talk about with Trevor Lawrence, and obviously another team and another player that if the team is going to have success, it's going to be on the shoulders of Trevor Lawrence, your quarterback. And again, we saw, I'm not even going to take anything away from his rookie year because he had an idiot head coach in Urban Meyer, but we saw when you have an adult in the room, and I've mentioned this when we've talked about Doug Peterson, about how he can unlock what a quarterback can do. There was a year where Carson Wentz was on track to win the award back in 2017 before he I think got injured. I want to say a couple games before the season was ending, but he was odds-on favorite to win MVP that upcoming season. I think that kind of that similar narrative, but I think the storyline when we talk about Trevor Lawrence kind of following what Doug Peterson was able to do with Carson Wentz is definitely there for sure. All right, for my guy or my pick this upcoming season for MVP, I went a little bit of chalk here. Justin Herbert, 12-1. Again, look, I think the one thing that when we talk about the quarter or the MVP award, it's always a quarterback. There's usually a guy that leads the league in QBR. Chris, when we talk about NBA MVPs, is usually the guy that leads the league in player efficiency rating, and it's always the Giannis's and the Jokers of the world. But I kind of went back and looked, and it's been pretty consistent that over the past several seasons, the guy that has the highest QBR usually goes on to win this award. Obviously, last season it was Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. When he won those awards, he was number one in QBR. But Justin Herbert has made those strides. I know last season he was number 11 in QBR. But look, the passing yardage is going to be there for Justin Herbert. I think that, again, when we talk about touchdown passes for Justin Herbert, he had 31 in his rookie season, 38 in his second year. Last season, only threw for 25. But the yardage is always going to be there, right? His second year, he threw for 5,000 yards. Last season, 4,700 yards. The yard is going to be there. So there's two improvements I need to see him make. Is number one, throwing for less interceptions because he's been in double-digit interceptions in his first three seasons. And when we talk about a make or break year, especially for a head coach, I think Brian Staley's on that hot seat because if the Chargers don't have a successful season, he might be the first one to go. The other thing I do like is Kellen Moore coming in as offensive coordinator for this Los Angeles Chargers team. When we talk about weapons around Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen's of the world, they picked up Quentin Johnson in the draft. You still have Austin Eckler in the backfield for you there as well. So the weapons are Mike Williams as well. I didn't mention his name. So the weapons are there for Justin Herbert. It's just that number one about him not making the mistakes. Again, the potential is there. Can they put it all together? And I think that number one, if they are able to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs for that division and possibly be a number 2 or number 3 seed, maybe potentially a number 1 seed in the AFC, I think that Justin Herbert will definitely be up for this award at currently at what I say 12-1 for the upcoming season. Other guy, I think Cyril mentioned there as well, Lamar Jackson. I think that again, in a healthy year, what this guy's able to do now with weapons around him at the wide receiver position, and his ability to use his legs. We've seen what this Ravens team is able to do year in and year out. I think this is about him, number one, being healthy. And again, being in a competitive division, if they do end up as the division winner, that you're going to have to look at Lamar Jackson to win that MVP because he's done it before. We've seen that for sure. Can he put it together for a full season and be healthy? So those are the two guys that did have your rod, Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson.
Well, for Justin Herbert, I mean, obviously we know it's going to be an uphill climb. You're right. The stats will be there, but will the rest of the team be able to sort of rise around him and help him get there? So that'll be the only, I think, weak link. And just like Cyril said, I mean, look, it's Lamar Jackson if he does manage to get this Ravens team to a win, but also it's going to take Dobbins with them. So, I mean, both can be true. We can have Lamar as the MVP and Dobbins as the comeback player of the year to make both of those come true. So yeah, I can see that.
Chris, any thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah. So Justin was actually my honorable mention as well. If I love Justin Herbert. I think Rod hit it on the head, but also just can everybody stay healthy, right? Like, can they all stay healthy? If he can stay healthy and he can get it, keep his wide receivers healthy, Austin Eckler can, play into deep into the season. and they can stay healthy. I think the Chargers are that we talked about it in the season preview as well when we did this AFC division. If the Chargers can stay healthy, they have the potential to compete with the Patrick Mahomes and the Joe Burrows and the Josh Allens of the world. So absolutely. And that would also go well for my guy, Joey. I need Joey to be healthy so he can help that defense. And, Chargers can be a little bit better than they're anticipated this year, Rod. I like Justin a lot.
All right, so that is going to do it for our NFL regular season player awards. Went through every single category there. Hopefully we found some winners there. We'll revisit it maybe midway through the season when it's like a slow week, or do an extra pod, kind of looking at the updated odds for what are the picks that we did have. But gentlemen, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here because this is our last episode before the regular season starts. I'm going to get y'all Super Bowl predictions for this upcoming season. Rod, I already know your NFC team who is going to make it to the Super Bowl. Who's coming out of the AFC?
Let's say that the Bengals finally get over the hump, and it's a rematch of the 1980s style San Francisco versus Cincinnati. I'll take that.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
I want to, as much as I want to agree with Rod and say Bengals, because I think that the Bengals, eventually hopefully you can get over the hump. They still have like loads of talent on that offense as well. Burrow just, not starting the season healthy, but hopefully he'll have time to kind of get there. So I'll go just to say somebody different. I'll say maybe the Bills get over the hump, right? Maybe Josh Allen can, and that defense can get over the hump. So give me Bills, and NFC. I think I'm gonna go Eagles. I think I'm gonna go Eagles just because they got there. We know Super Bowl hangovers typically can kind of come into effect. But I love what they've done, just with the offensive line, kind of keeping things intact. The defense is still going to be stellar. And I talked about them having a little bit more of a difficult schedule. So maybe that'll push, a guy like Jalen Hurts to even do more. So we'll see how it goes. But give me Eagles and give me Bills.
All right. I'm gonna go with the battle of the birds, man. Give me the Baltimore Ravens and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I think that if number one is obviously everything is health concerned, but I think this Baltimore Ravens team definitely has the potential to take that next step. And again, a lot of it does depend on Lamar Jackson. Can this game translate to the playoff type of game that is played? But again, you add guys like OBJ, who's now won a Super Bowl ring with the Los Angeles Rams. You had Zay Flowers, like we talked about as well. And the defense should be good as well. And again, you have a head coach that is, I think, a lot of people will say the top 5 head coach at minimum in the entire league. So I think this season is about all of them putting it together after, Lamar getting his contract done. That's all in the past now. Now it's about going out and winning football games. And again, the Eagles, we saw them do it last year. The offense is going to be prolific again. That NFC, I think it's more, it's top heavy when it comes to the NFC. It is, the Niners, can they get over the hump out of the NFC Championship game? That's still yet to be determined. But again, for Philadelphia Eagles team, I think they're still going to be hungry to get back to the Super Bowl at minimum. I think that's going to be my official prediction: the Ravens and the Eagles for this upcoming season. All right, gentlemen, that is going to wrap up our off-season episodes, or our preview episodes for this upcoming NFL season. Now we get to rub our hands and say we get to talk about games for this upcoming season. Our first game on deck is going to be our Thursday night football game. We'll be back maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. We'll decide a schedule, but get our player props out for that. But gentlemen, anything else we need to mention before we dip our toes into the regular season here, Rod?
No, I'm good. Like I said, I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to start talking to some games. So until then, you can follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Just like Munaf said, motorsports still going strong. NASCAR, IndyCar, F1. I mean, who knows? We'll find some bicycle races for 8. I don't care. If they got odds for them, we'll cover it.
Chris, anything else, my man, before we get out of here?
I like it, Rod. I like it. A wise bettor once told me he'd bet on 2 crickets running down the street if he think he could find an edge. I love it. I love it. But nothing else from me either. It's been a pleasure, man. Just talking these out, and like you said, we finally here now. We've done every division. We've covered every superlative that you can think of, and now we actually get to the season. So long time coming, but extremely excited to continue to just kind of branch off into the regular season with you guys. So definitely check out all my work over on Twitter at Crispy Cap and 2 P's 2 N's. And excited to break down the player props that we actually going to be putting in, not long-term investment, but short-term investment, because we'll be getting these, cashing these bets and getting some of this money back. So looking forward to that as well, Munaf and Rod. And I'll talk to you guys when we get that opportunity here soon.
Yeah, man. Now we're getting to the main course. Now it's the regular season. So again, like I mentioned, if you haven't already gotten a chance to go back and listen to our division previews, go ahead and do so. Obviously, this awards show as well. Hopefully, we found some long-term winners for you guys. But now it's time to grind. Now it's time to find those weekly winners for our weekly player props that we'll put out for you guys. And again, we're going to track it all season long and see how we've been doing. So again, first game is this week, this Thursday night. We'll be back for that for our player props, Lions and Chiefs. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.